Hello and welcome to NRL 360 Rugby League from every angle. Queensland have done the unthinkable. With the series on the line and just 4 days after losing his father, Cameron Munster showed incredible courage to inspire the Maroons to victory and reclaim the shield in front of 80,000 Blues fans in Sydney.
The Blues and the Maroons with everything to play for. This 2025 Origin Series gets decided right here. Harden's out of the line. Huge shot on Angus Crichton. Munster looking out of the back. Shibasaki did well to beat Lomax. Gave it to Coates. Queensland score. Robert Toya get dragged towards the sideline. Pops it back on the inside though. Tabuai. Vito gives it to Dearden.
Laurie, do you think you should be the coach of the Blues next year?
Most definitely.
Grant from dummy half spins, and gets in to score.
What a statement, what an ambush from this Queensland side.
Players, you know, have had a really good campaign. We just sort of didn't nail the moments. It's hard to win Origin Series back to back. We know that. Queensland losing last year was always going to bounce back.
Skips to the outside. Mitchell looking inside, finds Toro. What a tackle by Tom Dearden. It goes to Cleary, looks in, plays out. Edwards, Crichton, for the corner. Stephen Crichton wins the race, and the Blues at last have something. Dearden shows it. Tom Dearden. What a game he's had.
He's been absolutely brilliant tonight, Tom Dearden. Man of the match performance for his state.
Queensland, Origin champions once again.
It was an easy decision for me. Queensland's everything to me. I was obviously born there and I love the Maroon, and to be able to captain this team and try and send out Puppy as a winner is something that I'll hold dearly to my heart for the rest of my life.
I don't like ranking things, but I've never felt like this. The bloke to my left, that's as courageous and brave as I've ever seen. Boy, that's one proud dad sitting up there watching his boy tonight.
Joining me, the great Gordon Tallis, Phil Rothfield and James Hooper, and Captain Courageous Cameron Munster inspires Queensland to historic victory. What a performance it was by him and his team, Gordy.
Yeah, it had to be a colossal effort. Cameron Munster outstanding, but our defence, the way Queensland approached the game, I was nervous, I was unsure. You know, the way New South Wales have dominated us in periods in the last couple of years, but from the opening whistle, the boys were up for it, and it was an amazing night if you're a Queenslander.
Buzz, pretty special, wasn't it, Cameron?
You know, at major events, you expect great photography and great vision. When they came in at the end on Billy, who'd lost his dad, with Cameron, and the tears that were flowing in that embrace for quite some time, it was unbelievable emotion. And good on Cameron, very, very brave to get out there and play.
Phenomenal performance, Buzz, not just from Cameron, but the entire Queensland side. And I don't think we can underestimate or undersell, and James Graham spoke about it here on NRL 360 in the lead up to the game, the impact that Cameron being prepared to play for Queensland as captain of the state, given the personal situation and tragedy that he was facing, the emotional lift, the way that side, all 17 of those players were dialed in and ready to run through flames and run through whatever adversity they faced. They clearly tapped into that, and phenomenal performance by Cameron.
They were all great, the whole team, and the added inspiration and motivation to do it for Cameron and his father, you could see visibly, and that was sensational. And I was talking to Cameron last night after the game, I'm like, mate, can you believe that, you know, 2 games ago you'd lost game 1, you weren't the captain, and you guys were pretty much on the brink of losing the series. He gets named the captain. He wins 2 games, gets man of the match. His father passes away, goes home, comes back, and he's holding up the shield.
Yeah.
Like, it was surreal. It really was.
He's got a lot to deal with, Braith, with his dad in the next couple of weeks, and, you know, the final goodbye and funerals, all that sort of thing. But what lies ahead now, after what we've seen from him this series, not just his future at Melbourne Storm, but these expansion clubs looking for a face of a club and a champion. And even, you know, I'm thinking about the Kangaroo Tour. It's going to be a very difficult tour of England. And he's now neck and neck with Isaiah Yeo for the captaincy of Australia after what he's done this series.
Where does he rate now amongst Queensland greats? Where do you have him?
He's up there. He's up there. What's that, 20? Okay, they don't lie. But I'm not a stat man. It's just what he does in the jersey. For the guy to come and have the influence on the game, the way he does, the way he bounces, but more importantly, the way the guys lifted for him. So with leadership, you know, they all come in different shapes and sizes, but they all followed him.
I know you're not a stats man, but these are pretty good stats.
Unbelievable stats.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need those stats to show, for me, when I watch him play, on how important he is to our side. And last year, I thought it was the blueprint. The way we played in Game 3, we had everything but Cameron Munster and Tino. And we had it this year, and the boys put in the same effort. It is a team game. There was Tommy Dearden was outstanding. Ruben Cotter was out. Like there was all 17 Queenslanders were absolutely outstanding. But Munster's just sometimes he can go on to a level that only he goes on.
There's only one king in Wally Lewis, but Cameron's starting to get frighteningly close to where the king is. And you've got Alfie Langer, you've got Kevy Walters, you've got Darren Lockyer, you've got all those champion playmakers over the years. But what Cameron can do in big games, facing adversity, nobody gave Queensland a chance in this series after how dominant New South Wales were in Game 1. So for Cameron to be made captain and lead the state with his actions the way that he has, I think that puts him in
they say
elite
Joey's
company.
the closest to, and Cameron Smith. Well, if he gets one more man of the match performance out of those 34 guys, well, I think he's equal with those guys.
Whenever Wally Lewis speaks at a lunch engagement, he does a lot of them in Brisbane, as sportsman's lunches, he always brings Cameron up. And he also always talks about he's up there with the greatest players to ever wear the jersey. So coming from the king,
absolutely,
that's enough.
All right, let's look at Queensland a bit more broadly now. We'll start with Billy Slater and his coaching masterclass. Under huge pressure after Game 1, he made some big decisions, especially made change going into Game 3, and he has pulled everyone's pants down because what an effort it was by him, Gordy.
Oh, yeah, look, obviously the changes and the pick and flick, well, we picked and flicked, but it worked for us. To bring Tommy Dearden in, so much pressure on a young guy that has played at this level and done a really good job, but to come in to sack your captain and for Tommy Dearden to stand up in the last 2 games. But I thought our front row, I thought Lindsay, Tino and Big Papa in the middle were absolutely outstanding. Liero, Carrigan, I thought our forward pack stood up, did their job, and our backs just, they were a bit of the icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, my view with Billy is that what Mal Meninga and Wayne Bennett and the great coaches have done, I think this is up there with it. As you said, Gordy, to come back from one down, to get rid of 3 or 4 players, to make the toughest phone call he's ever made to Cherry-Evans, to bring Dearden into the football side, got rid of Mo Fodawaker, got rid of Bo Firma, bench Carrigan, bench Jeremiah Nanai. They're just huge changes.
Well, he moved Tabuai for Darwin. Everybody said, well, it should be Reece Walsh. So the changes they did, Shibasaki, he's pretty much got 2 rookie centres up against your 2 most important attacking players.
Shown enormous intestinal fortitude and also a willingness to take huge risks, like the Daly Cherry-Evans call. That's one of the biggest calls in State of Origin
history. Is that the defining call of this series?
I think so, absolutely. I think from that moment, from a Queensland point of view, I think from that moment on, I think Billy made 13 changes in total from the team that started in Game 1 to the team that started last night with obviously the wingers were switched and Shibasaki ended up in the centres.
That was outstanding, the coach move.
Bringing Kurt Capewell back, Dearden into halfback, Liero to start at 13. There were so many risks that Billy took, but it just shows the diligence.
His biggest risk, without doubt, I'll just ask you then, was dropping the captain.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people didn't want him to do it. A lot of people said it was the wrong thing to do.
It was a hard decision. It was a tough decision, and he was always going to face enormous backlash and scrutiny as a result of it.
And it was only going to go whether it was going to be right or wrong.
That was what I was going to say, Gordy. It very easy could have been a bust rather than a victory, and all of a sudden it's all sorts of negative headlines.
And Dearden didn't let him down. You know, not only did he bring, well, not a rookie half, but, you know, he's brought young Dearden in. He got the Wally Lewis medal.
So, but
his bloke tipped him to get it.
And Braith, you know, we always talk about origin moments. and they're really, really special. When Toto was heading for that left-hand side try line, he's paying $1.04 to score. No one stops him. And Dearden, it was an Origin moment, came across and basically bent him in half. Not just stopped him, but put him into touch. It was outstanding football.
He was everywhere, Dearden, everywhere. He was even celebrating after the game. And after a long night of celebrations, the Queenslanders were great value when they fronted the cameras this morning.
How are the celebrations?
Yeah, they went on early into the morning. Yeah.
What time did you get home?
Just then.
Yeah, we just come together, and I think you look back at game one, we didn't quite get it right, and then game two we played well for 40 minutes, and then it was nice tonight that we could put a solid performance on and take home the series.
I don't know how much trouble I'm getting for saying this, but geez, I thought Ash Klein did a bit to try and, even it up, sitting there going, it's rorted. The game's rorted. You're watching forward passes and you know what I mean? We're all on the sideline just going, oh, no, it's a double agent.
The boys had had a few sherbets there. I reckon Kerr had ripped in big time, but Cotter and Dearden, they hadn't slept, and Kerr was questioning the ref after the game.
Well, just on Ruben Cotter, so Reedy said that there was a chance of him playing hooker because that's where he'd played in the juniors. He's a middle at the Cowboys, and one of the better middles. He played on an edge. It's tough on an edge against Crichton and Liam Martin, and by game three he was one of the big reasons why.
I reckon Grant's the other guy you're talking about, Hooker and Cotter. Grant was awful game one. He really was. It was so unlike Harry Grant. His last two games, he was sensational. Why is the best hooker in the country?
I think he made over 50 tackles in the middle too last night.
To be fair to Ruben, he was poor in game one. I think he was one of the players who was on the chopping block. But again, to Billy's diligence and his aptitude and the level of detail that he goes to, shifted him to the right edge. So he obviously saw something that he went, you know what, I reckon he can do a job on that side. And as for the celebrations, well, Gordy, that just continues as a tradition, doesn't it? Like you've had Jai Arrow in the cane toad hat over the years. I think Alfie doesn't mind 6 more songs and dancing around on a table.
Well, that's
and
the
that
moment
sort of
because
I think they do,
and I think that they do get together, in December or something like that. But that's the moment that you want to be. That's the reason, right? If you win and you win a decider in Sydney against a great state, I think it's time to celebrate.